I'm ready.
Are
We're all
we
ready.
going green yet?
We're gonna
We're
go
going
green
green.
now.
Are we
But first, you probably should
contemplating?
start the recording.
It's been recording.
Test.
I'm like, I swear if it's not been recording this whole time.
Is there an agenda?
Welcome back, everyone, to the Track Packers podcast for episode 22 of
I'm not
season
waving my
3.
flag yet.
Well, why you gotta wave the flag? You're gonna miss the great.
Okay, now start over.
John, look, my flag went limp.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Track Packers podcast for episode 22 of season 3. It is an all-guys podcast this time around with the three of us, myself, Mason, along with Mr. Jessapelke and John Breckel on another very nice weekend in August. Jessup, how are you doing this week?
I'm not really sure. I have to go back to work tomorrow. I don't want to deal with it.
So I'm sorry that you have to go back to work. I know it's kind of been tough with the way the summer's been and kind of having this open schedule of yours and now going back to like full days worth of work.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't know how I'm going to survive.
I mean, now Mason, he's got to shower every day, get dressed every day.
I already do that. Well, maybe not dressed.
Anyways, John, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Mason. We had fun. Mason and I took a road trip on Sunday, so we had a great time together. But besides that, it was a fun weekend overall, and it's almost done with the race season for the regular season, which I am sad about because I can't believe it's already to that point of the season. Um, but I am excited for September and October for the year-end specials.
Yeah, usually around the beginning of August is when I get sick. And that didn't happen this time around, although I waited 2 weeks and I got sick the middle of last week. So it was kind of good timing on when I got under the weather. So by the time the weekend rolled around, felt much, much better. So hopefully we got that sickness for the
No,
season out of
that's
the way.
what you get when you only eat HelloFresh and Dairy Queen. And Deke's
This
Pizza.
is true. This is very true. And McDonald's. Don't forget about McDonald's.
Random aside, I tried to order Deke's Pizza on Saturday night and they're like, oh, the pickup time is we're stopping it at midnight. And I'm like, oh,
What?
and I was, yeah.
You deliver that crap to my garage.
No, because then you pay like so much more extra with delivery. And I'm like,
Mason,
Look at this. He
Families.
couldn't get it delivered, but because he couldn't go get it picked up, he couldn't get it delivered, although that was still an option.
it was still
wait,
an
hold on.
option, but I wanted to save money.
You're talking about saving money, yet you travel halfway across the continent to watch a weekly show?
Exactly.
Well, and let's back
Priorities,
up real
man.
quick too. Plus, he will go from the north side to the south side of Bismarck looking for McDonald's.
This is true. When he could just easily pick up McDonald's leaving the Bismarck. Oh no.
No, I couldn't
Man,
because
yeah.
it was
You could've-
closed.
It was not closed, Mason. You're like, I want to go to the East Side McDonald's.
The drive-through was
It's
shut down with
faster.
cones in each of their lanes, so I had to
Let's
go
not-
all the way down to Expressway.
Hold on, John.
Wow.
John, you ready for this?
Yes.
Gosh.
I mean, I guess I could have taken a picture to show proof of it, but I definitely went over there and they were blocked
Jason.
off on the drive-through.
We got McDonald's last week at like 1 in the morning over there.
Well, it was closed at like what was it, like 10? When did we get a Bismarck on
We got
Sunday?
back about 11:45.
Yeah, and blocked off. The two lanes were closed off, and I'm like,
Come
I
on, John,
put
throw
my
that
order in
caution
the
up.
app. I'm like, what the
Throw
heck?
that caution up on him.
Did you know, race fans, this is a Cottingham insurance caution? They have two locations around Bismarck, as they have one in Bismarck. They also have another location in the state of North Dakota. Did you know that's also over there in Underwood?
Well, you talk about saving myself money and time. You know what also can save you some time? Hitch harness and the receiver hitches that Tyler Hall himself produces. And we want to thank Tyler for supporting us on the podcast. If you haven't, go over to hitchharness.com and check out the products they have. Of course, the single and double style receiver hitch harness is the signature products, but you can also find things such as chassis dollies, pull bar brackets to even save you time in the shop as well. And so, especially when we're tired at the end of the season, it's important that we start saving time wherever we can. And so, head over to hitchartist.com, get a hold of Tyler if you have any questions on any of the products, and thank you for supporting us on the podcast.
John, how are you doing this week?
I'm doing great, Jessup. How about you now?
I'm doing good. I didn't forget about you.
I asked him before we went on this whole diatribe. That's like rewatching the Jamestown broadcast where John repeated what Becca said like an umpteen amount of times.
Well,
I
I
so
just
did.
figured
I
you're
did that
going to
on
try to
purpose
cut
the
all
whole
this
time.
out. I just figured, John, that Mason would cut your portion out.
I know he doesn't like people of my demeanor.
Yeah, they're too miserable.
Mm,
Wow. Wow.
yep.
Gosh, you don't get to label people. I'm back in teacher mode.
And again, race fans, this is another Cottingham Insurance caution. Did you know if you want to check out Cottingham Insurance for any type of insurance, whether it's homeowners, vehicles, or renters, they have two, count them, two locations in the state of North Dakota. They have one in Bismarck and in Underwood.
So who are
Well,
you repping this week, Mason? Who and what are you repping?
sure, let's just transition right into who or what are you repping. Wave the green flag, let's go. Go ahead, Jessup.
Well, I'm wearing my Donnie Schatz hoodie in honor of Donnie Schatz picking up the Jackson National uh, win this past weekend. So, yay, Donnie. Yay. As he comes back to his home state to hopefully hunt David Gravel off the track, even though I know Donnie will race him clean, but maybe Buddy Kofoid will punt him off the track and put Donnie right back in the points contention. Not one, but two nights.
I was going to check to see how the points are shaken up because David Gravel's been kind of quiet, it seems like. At least when
He's
I've checked
quiet.
results.
He's doing the Brad Sweet thing.
He
He's
is.
being stupid consistent and
Yep.
hasn't had any real mechanical breakdowns. However, Donnie's getting hot right now. And one bad break for young David Gravel, and it'll be Choke City again.
The gap is at 106 points right now between Gravel and Schatz.
So you're saying there's a chance?
Well, I'm sure there's a chance. They probably got what, like good 20 some races left?
I don't know how the points work.
I think it's just whoever has the most points at the end of the season wins, right? Kind of like the old conventional NASCAR
Okay,
method, which
I mean,
seemed like
what a
easy to
concept.
follow. I know,
Right,
right?
and what a concept.
I'm
Where do
not.
I lie? Where do I lie?
I don't know. Maybe the new concept's better.
Well, that's a very fitting time to rep the Donnie Schatz hoodie, especially this upcoming weekend, which we'll touch on in a little bit. John, go ahead. Who or what are you repping?
Okay, so I'm repping a shirt that I finally received from one of our fellow podcasters as well here on this episode. And I am repping a Dirt Race Central Street Stock Tour shirt that I received here just recently from somebody who ran out of my sizes and didn't think of me when he got shirts put in his car, but eventually got me a shirt that still doesn't fit, but at least it's still a shirt. So, yes, but I am repping the Street Stock Tour shirt as they are going to be going to the River City Speedway here in just about 2 weeks for the Sites Memorial for their championship weekend.
Indeed. Season went by fast and unfortunately got abbreviated quite a bit due to Mother Nature. What a shock.
Wait a second, you're saying that it actually rained when you and Kayla were in the same vicinity?
Well, sometimes we weren't even in the vicinity. Well, I guess that's a lie because now we have a 900-mile radius
This is true. I
because
mean,
John blamed me for Michigan this Sunday.
NASCAR got rained out on Sunday, right, Jessup? Let's think
Yep,
about
it
this,
did.
right? Berlin, Michigan
Thank
got
Mason and
rained out
Caleb for that.
because Mason was in Fargo to start the day, and the showers just popped up, and it was within that 900-mile radius.
It is. I'm
I
sorry,
mean,
Mason.
technically, when they officially rained out for the day, I was outside the 900-mile radius on my way over to Bismarck.
He was running from the rain he created.
Who, me?
Yes, you.
Well, either way, very cool shirt to rep with the Street Stock Tour. Yep, looking forward to the championship weekend upcoming at the John Seitz Memorial this year. So nice little added twist to it. So I was gonna rep a different hat, but it doesn't totally fit because my hair isn't bushy enough. I know, kind of a weird problem to have, but repping Sheldon Hanshield for the hat because, of course, the World of Outlaws will be coming through the state of North Dakota this upcoming weekend. The koozie, I actually didn't realize I had this, but I have a Chris Ritter koozie.
Neat.
You have a critter.
I don't remember when I got this koozie, to be honest. So nice little surprise I found in my little bag. And for the shirt this week, a new shirt from this past weekend, it is the 7th annual Bob Gierke Memorial Race that just took place over at the I-94 Speedway on Saturday. On the back is all the sponsors that threw in money to the purse for both the Midwest Modifieds and Modifieds, and we'll touch on the results here in just a little bit as I actually was attending that race. And of course, Bob Gierke was a well-known Minnesota modified racer out of central Minnesota, and they've been putting on this race every year since his passing, and I always get a really good turnout for both the modified classes, and so another really good job by the Gierke family to put it all together, and had a lot of contingency prizes as well. So really cool race to be is just a small part of this last weekend. Speaking of memorial races, had some really sad news this last week with the passing of Scott Bloomquist, another number 0 was sort of late model. Very, very unfortunate to hear that last week. And I was trying to think of, I don't know if I actually got to see him race. I was trying to look at some of the previous like Lucas or Outlaws races I was at, but I don't think I actually got to see him race. Did either of you two get to see him race?
Yep.
Yeah, I've seen him once.
I've seen him a handful of times. Saw him at Cedar Lake, saw him in Florida, saw him at Superior, and then there was one or two other places.
Yeah, of course, I've been seeing all sorts of stories from this last week.
At the Dirt in December.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That would be another big one. Yeah. And I was like seeing all these stories on how personable he was to the fans and how much time he spent with the fans going through the pits. That was really cool to see all those stories. And I'm just like, man, I really wish I would have met the guy, but I don't recall a time.
He's something else.
Yeah. So definitely a big loss to the dirt racing community and racing community as a whole. A very, very well-known figure across all racing disciplines, it seems like, from the stories and things I've read over the last week or so. So thoughts and prayers out to the Bloomquist family and all those close to Scott Bloomquist as they continue to navigate the days, weeks, and months ahead. We will now take a trip back in time with the Hot Sauce Hot Memory Rewind and give a shout out to good old Hot Sauce himself, Isaac Sondrol, who is back behind the wheel of an IMCA Modified this weekend, although it was not the 12S. It is the 49 machine from Eric Laudenschlager, and he did very, very well on Sunday at the Nodak Speedway, and we'll touch on that just a little bit later. But if you're able to see him in the pits or see him race throughout the rest of the season, be sure to stop on down in the pits, tell him hi. Thank you so much, Isaac, for supporting us on the podcast, and looking forward to see what you got cooked up for the rest of the year and even next year into 2025. So, Jessup, you want to kick things off with your selections for the Hot Sauce Hot Memory Rewind?
I will. I have 3. I think I'm going to get you guys on at least one of them. So, remember, rules are very simple. All you got to do is name the year, name the driver, and you will be a winner. Kicking it off with number 1.
That would be Wayne Johnson.
Well, very good, John.
Yep, that's correct. 2008.
John, would you like to do your pick now, or do you want to wait?
I will wait.
Okay, John is 1 for 1. Going to number 2.
Gosh, I have two guesses. Do you have any guesses, John?
Yes, I do. But you go first, Mason.
Okay, my first guess is I don't know which store Bakken it is, but I want to guess it's a store Bakken.
John?
I'm also thinking it's Storbakken.
Well, you were one car off, or one photo off. This is not either Storbakken.
Oh,
It
is
is
it John Flory?
It is John Flory.
Oh, okay.
That was my other guess.
That was the tough one. Now we're gonna get potentially another tough one.
Oh, I've seen this car before.
That's Tommy W. I don't remember his last name. It's Wes.
Wazaleski.
Thank you.
Now, is it senior or junior?
That one is senior.
This would be junior.
I guessed on that. I had no idea. I just knew
Not
it was Tommy.
bad,
I was like, I
not
wasn't
bad.
exactly
You
sure.
guys did pretty good there. Now, John, what year do you think?
2011.
Close. It's 2012.
Okay.
Oh, close.
According to the little photo holder.
Makes sense.
Those are some good ones. I forgot that John Flory had a late model at one point.
I thought I was going to get you guys with that one. I thought it would be a little more difficult than what it turned out to
I
be.
think it was a Storbakken car that he was racing, though.
I must
But,
say,
but I think he was in there. Yeah.
yeah, I
Yep.
feel like it was owned by the store Bakkens.
Yes, because they had like 4 or 5 cars at one point.
Mm-hmm.
Couldn't fool you with my quick throw of Wayne Johnson.
No, that
You
one.
know,
Now, would that be Wayne Johnson Jr. or Senior?
Wise
What?
guy.
What? That was
okay,
funny.
Mason, you're next.
Okay, I'll share my screen. I got 3 more. This is number 1.
That's Aaron Blacklands from
Yes.
2012.
Yes.
Very good. Had to start with the easy-ish one. I mean, this next one's pretty easy too.
That is Lindsay Hansen
Ah,
It is.
I'm gonna
from
go with John.
2013.
That would be Jamestown.
Mhm.
Would be Jamestown. And then number 3.
That one is I'm trying to think of his name.
That would be Speedway.
God darn it. You can see his car.
76.
Yes, Jessup. 76, 11S, that group.
11S. Oh,
Bob
he's a
Fugman.
stock car.
There
Yes.
you go.
Thank you. I could not think of Bob's first name. I was like, God darn it.
Can you guess the year of this photo?
I'm going to say that was 2000 and let me see here. Probably 4 or 5.
2009.
It is 2003.
Well,
Oh, really close.
I was over. I lost.
I was like, what a shock. I stumped John on a Mida driver.
No, you did not, Mason.
Not this time.
So you just take that.
Go
What do
ahead,
you
John.
think?
I have 3. This is the first one.
That is Terry Labonte.
I don't remember Terry driving a 4. He drove a 44 on multiple occasions.
Well, that's my bad then.
This is a street stock.
I want to say it's Randy Tarno.
It is Randy Tarno.
That's actually really good. Good job, Mason.
Good job, Mason.
You know I'm at a severely unfair disadvantage here.
Well, to be fair, I saw Tarno distribution on the side, and that kind of gave it away.
That's what, yep.
The super stock. Good job, Jessup. Good.
10X. Northwest Auto Body, so I think it's
Well,
a
that's gonna
Fargo
be
guy.
that's an Arneson.
I knew I was going to stump you guys on this one.
10X. Who's 10X, John?
Any guesses?
White and blue. Only thing that's good with Arneson, but
Give you a hint.
Let's
He
talk about
ran super stocks and mods for many, many years. He also had a late model at a time.
it. Oh,
His son is now driving in the modified division.
Is he from North Dakota?
Mhm.
he's from the Fargo area.
Yep. From the
Members,
Fargo area.
son.
Yep. Justin's right in the Fargo area thing.
Well, it's in Northwest, so
10X. I don't remember who was a 10X.
oh no, it's not them.
Yeah, I'll give you guys like 5 seconds. Just name some
Just
drivers.
go ahead. Go, John. Just
I
say it.
keep thinking Sean
It's
Kerwin, but it's
it's
not.
Corky Thomas.
Oh,
The 10X?
Hmm?
Okay.
I knew I was going to stump you guys on this one because he ran it for a couple years.
just wait. Next week, I'm getting old. I can't see things. 77. No, that's not the 77 I know.
Is that Corey Seekerson?
It is. It's Corey Seekerson from 2002. That is his former Wasota Street Stock that he ran for many years.
Nice.
I would say it.
And
To be honest, he doesn't look like he's changed all that much.
he really
No.
hasn't. But he was very dominant with that car back in the day too. He won multiple features and multiple track championships.
That's a cool looking car, actually.
Yeah, he's got some nice finishing back in the day.
Opposed to all the other cool looking cars we had.
Well, awesome. That's a fun addition of the Hot Sauce Hot Memory Rewind. Good job, guys.
You know what? I'm gonna just start pulling out cars that I don't know. John, who's this?
That's Aaron Olson,
14A.
isn't it?
That's Aaron Olson. Yep.
Okay, that's one. I don't know who that is.
You don't know Aaron Olson?
He runs a stock car nowadays.
He
I
travels
don't.
down to Arizona in the winter.
I don't get
He's
to
run the
watch
Hot Tour.
stuff in the winter. I'm too busy dealing with the little people.
The terrace.
You will never guess who this one is.
Troy
Nope.
Shield.
He never watches any racing in the winter. What a load of baloney.
What racing do I watch? Where do I lie? And I usually fall asleep before the racing gets started.
Well, that part is true.
So then I don't lie because I'm honest.
You're the ones that have to cover Winter Nationals recaps when we get to them because I don't have the subscription for it.
Well, that sounds like a you problem, Mason.
It is a me problem.
He's not wrong there.
You
This
need
kind
to,
of sounded like a you problem.
as in you need to figure out your winter video broadcasting rates.
Right. Anyways, moving on to the track pack report. You guys can start off on Friday because Thursday was swept by Mother Nature.
Well, let me kick it off with this, Mason. There were a lot of cars.
There were a lot of cars.
I saw that, and I saw that early on. I'm just like, oh gosh, you guys are going to have a lot of cars and a lot of travelers coming for that show because it was the makeup race for the night of, is it Night of Legends or Night of the Legends?
Night of the Legends. Yep. Night of the Legends makeup.
We're now at
And we had
Night
51 legends that came over to race with us.
It's a lot of legends.
Yep.
We had a ton of legends in the field. It almost felt like a year-end special.
So that had to have been interesting with the makeup races for legends, and then you have to try to whittle down to 24 for the regular Friday night feature. So that's a lot of like probably good quality drivers that are going to have to park it on the trailer before the end of the night.
Yeah, because 24 drivers made the feature. So if you think about it, 27 went home. So yes. And then the qualifying feature, not the qualifying features, but the makeup features to start the night, um, were basically very interesting too, because we did have a little bit of carnage in a few of those. And it kind of took out some other guys. Yep.
Well, what were your takeaways from Friday night?
Overall, really good racing. Not a horrible amount of carnage. A lot more people would be, I I think a lot of people survived the Drive to Survive, which is mostly like a low key race that it's actually about survival because every year there's a lot of carnage on those nights. Um, each each class had really good racing, I thought, from Sport Compacts all the way to the IMC mods. Really good car counts across the board. Stock cars really came and showed out. That was fun to see that. It was fun to see.
25 of them.
Yep, there's fun to see Scotty get the win, ripping the high side, and then yeah, it was just a really good night of racing, I thought. What'd you think, John?
No, I'd agree with Jessup on that too. It was a very good night of racing overall. As a whole for anything that came across from the track perspective, we had 122 cars in the pit, so we had a lot of cars there on Friday, and not just even so much with just the legends. Like Jessup said, 25 stock cars. We had over 20 mods. We had 16 hobby stocks. I think we had 10 or 11 sport compacts. But overall, here's who kind of took over the victories. So Zach Eubanks kept his win streak alive at Dacotah Speedway. He picked up another feature victory over there, over the likes of Benjamin Burke and Alex Thompson. And he's up to basically being 1 point now behind Alex going into this weekend for season championship night. So that battle is going to be a lot of fun to watch over at the Dacotah Speedway on this upcoming Friday. And then in your hobby stock division, it was definitely kind of a race of kind of survival a little bit in that race because there was a lot of dicing and slicing through the field up front, and then actually some a little bit bigger wrecks here or there within the feature. But it was the 4D of Josh Rourke who picked up his first win in a couple years over at the Dacotah Speedway in a brand new car. So that was kind of nice to see too, because this is Josh's first year being in that car this season. So that was kind of cool to see. In the Legends, so I'm not going to go through the makeup features directly. I'll go through the main event show. It was clean and green. We did not have a caution in your Legends feature, and it was Preston Martin who went on a tear and started 20th and picked up the win over a youngster, Ty Olson. Ty's really coming to his own, being 14 years of age, and got a second right on Preston's bumper in that feature event. So congratulations to Preston. I will go through the winners though for the makeup after I get done with here, just on who won that $1,000 with the Night of the Legends. Then within your stock car A main, pretty clean race up there too. It was the zero machine of Scotty Gardner who got the high side working, and he was gone again this week, very similar to what he was 2 weeks ago. So let's see Scotty pick up back-to-back wins in a field that included the likes of Trent Greger, Randy Klein, Hunter Domagala, Sean Strand, a lot of those top contenders throughout the state of North Dakota were over there on Friday night. So it was nice to see on 25 stock cars within the field on Friday. And then your mods, it was Jeremy Keller who picked up back-to-back wins as well within the modified division. And he had Mark Dahl kind of tracking him down towards the end of that race, very similar to 2 weeks ago. And then with only a couple laps to go, Dahl's engine exploded in turns 1 and 2, and he had a big cloud of smoke came out of the tail end of that car, and that kind of changed everything from the points complexion because not anybody really was out of the race at that point of time from Friday night. So Mark had only a 5 point lead in that time frame, and he lost that points lead. So he's, I think, about 12 or 13 back now going into championship weekend. So yeah, so tough break for Marcus. He's looked really good all year in his modified, and kind of it's always hard to lose it when it's a mechanical failure as well, something that's kind of out of your control from the racing stance. So yeah, so that was our normal show on Friday. In your makeup events, it was Noah Madler who picked up the win within the semi-pros. So Noah got that $1,000 and won that feature event. Ty Olson was your highest finishing young lion, so he got the $1,000 in that event as well. Then in your main show, for the Masters and the Pro division, which we had 22 of the starters in that one start. It was a great battle up front. That was actually a really good feature up front between the likes of Nate Keena, Donovan Weist, Preston Martin, Austin Weist, Dayton Olheiser. They were all right there. But it was in your Masters, it was Donovan. Donovan Weist picked up the win. He actually picked up the win in that feature event, and he beat Nate Keena to the line. So Keena was your pro champion, and they both picked up $1,000.
Always a cool race to kind of see with the different divisions kind of split up a little bit more. You kind of have to focus on multiple battles taking place throughout the entire field.
There was a lot of side by side in that pro and masters feature event. A lot of slicing and dicing.
Excellent. Well, good to hear that Dacotah Speedway Drivers Friday night went pretty well with a lot of cars, and they have one more race night before the year-end specials hit. So
And we did not have carnage in the high heels race.
that's
Yeah.
So
good.
the Nightly DeMayo high heel race went off without a hitch. And we had two races. We had the juniors with the little kids, and then we had the adults do their portion of it, and everybody ran without having broken ankles or any twisted feet or anything else like that one too. And a lot of money was raised for the Bismarck Cancer Center.
Yeah, because last year wasn't there bloodshed?
There was some bloodshed. Yep. Yep. Becca actually pushed over a kid and that kid started bleeding.
I don't think that happened.
That poor kid. Well, so on the other race that was kind of the closest to me besides Mandan was over at the Fiesta City Speedway in Montevideo, and they had vintage cars there added to their regular program with all the other classes, including pure stocks, Midwest mods, streets, supers, late models, and Hornets. Actually, pretty good field, most of the classes. 17 Midwest mods, 22 streets, 16 super stocks, which they usually get 6 to 8. So talking with one of the guys, Jordan, down there, he's just like, where'd all the super stocks come from? So very good field. They only had 5 Hornets, but several of them were kind of at a weekend getaway for a wedding. And so that kind of took out several of them for a couple of days throughout the weekend. But overall, really good racing on hand at Fiesta. They actually had a little bit of weather throughout the day that was kind of like mixing in with their track prep, but track in itself was pretty dang good. So in the pure stocks, which kicked things off, it was the 16 at Colton Stewart crossing the finish line in first as he's had a dominant season. However, I guess in tech he got disqualified, and so the win went to the 2 of Carter Rice. So congrats to Carter Rice and the 2 machine for picking up the feature win in the pure stocks. The Midwest modifieds were up next on the track, and first-time visitor to the track, Cole Boston in the 33C from Wyoming, Minnesota. He took the lead early and walked away from the field in a caution-free affair. So big congrats out to Cole Boston in a 33 machine. Street stocks, very stacked field of cars with both the Browers there, Justin Vogel, Ty Agan, Zach Flickinger, and Mike Jans, just to name a few. Very good race, a lot of side-by-side action, but it was Braden Brower that would hold off Ty Agan in a late race battle to claim another feature win on the season. The super stocks had a little bit of carnage, but thankfully everyone was okay. I know Jake Knapper took a hard hit, but thankfully he was okay and was walked away under his own power. It was Shane Spraski, though, making a late race pass on Andrew Hedke for the feature win. I don't know exactly what number feature win that was for Shane Spraski, but let's just say it's a lot now. Continues to be a lot for the 7A. In the late models, it was Matt Gilbertson holding the fort down in front of Shane Spraski, and Matt Gilbertson has pretty much been on a hot streak down at the Fiesta City Speedways, so another win for the 23 machine. And in the Hornets, it was Adam Vanderstein taking the win to close out the night, and the vintage cars, I believe, they didn't have any results posted, and I forgot the gentleman's name that won the stock cars / modified version of it, but they had a pretty good race, side by side throughout the entirety of it, and it almost came down to a photo finish. So very good night down at Fiesta City Speedway on Friday night. And like I said, Friday night had a lot of rainouts, and so very few places to get some racing action in on that day. So then moving on to Saturday, you two were over in Jamestown. Talk to us about Jamestown, Jessup.
Jessup's on mute.
Yeah.
Well, let me tell you, it was a nice night with John. I had to drive all by myself because John wouldn't carpool with me. It was a long, emotional ride over.
I made
But
Jessup go by himself.
all in all, it was a really good night, I thought. I kind of thought there would be more Midwest mods for a really good paying race for the Midwest mods. But the cars that they did get were really good drivers. I think John will attest to that. Racing in all the divisions were pretty good. The track was really good, I thought. Overall, pretty efficient show. but yeah, those are the first general takeaways that I have just popping off of my head. Um,
Because you were in the flag stand again, right?
yep, yep. So good to be back and be able to help where I can help, wherever that may be, outside of the ticket office. If I travel 2 hours to get to a track, I probably want to be somewhere near the track on the track side.
Understandable.
So,
Mhm.
John will give us a very nicely detailed and thorough breakdown, and I will add my little firecrackers of wisdom and tidbit.
Go ahead, John.
Though there were a lot of cars, as Jessup was saying.
Were there?
It was 115
That's seven less.
on Saturday night, so still a lot of cars. And no, it was a really good night overall. Boy, the definitely the new dirt has kind of changed the complexion of racing in Jamestown here over the last couple of weeks. Definitely more tack in the track, a little bit of character in the track as that gets worked out as well, and just a lot of really fast racing. The heats just kind of clicked by pretty fast on Saturday night too, with how it was and yeah, and after they did track prep, the track stayed super tacky and pretty much kind of the rest of the night kind of slicked off there towards the end, but it never got to the point to where it was one lamed up or anything else from that piece of it. Or and like I think Marcus Tomlinson said it best in his post, there was not a hint of rubber at all on that track, and I don't think there's been a hint of rubber in that track since they put on the new clay. So that's been kind of a nice change and a nice thing to see for the Jamestown side. Um, I'll go through results. So in your slingshots, it was Jackson Carroll that picked up the win there in the seven machine.
A
They had four
very late,
slingshots.
a very late hard charge beneficiary of some carnage, as John would scream.
Yes. Yep. The carnage that ended up happening. As Aubrey Edinger was leading and got into the back of
Gensko.
Getskow in the 32 machine and that ended her bid for her first feature win. So Jax picked up another big win over there. He's likely going to be the track champion as well in that division as he's been pretty far ahead in points. Hobby stock division, it was a battle up front between the four machine of Cade Getskow and the 18 machine of Joe Jacobson. And Joe looked really good on Saturday night and picked up that win. And that was a really fast feature event too, because there was a lot of side-by-side racing, but the track was pretty tacky during that feature event. So a lot of the hobby stock guys were basically almost probably overheating during that feature event, to be honest with you. So, but Joe picked up the win. Did not know this, but Joe told me in Victory Lane that was his fourth engine of the year. So he's finally got his main motor back. That I think he blew earlier in the year. So luckily he's able to do that, and I think he's looking forward here to some big specials here towards the year end to run that machine. So Joe picked up another win in Jamestown. That's the second of the year over Cade Getskow, who got the Coogan for second place.
Neat. I like Coogan.
There's going to be a lot
In
of
the
cooking coming up here
There's gonna
soon.
be a lot of Coogan coming up. In the NX Legends division, it was a battle between the two drivers that were top two on Friday night over at the Dacotah Speedway, and that was between Preston Martin and also Ty Olson. And Ty and Preston were going through the field. Preston got the lead. Ty was not letting him out of his sights. Coming out of turn number four, Ty was about 3 car lengths behind going into turn three, but it put it basically right next to the wall in the bottom. And Preston was a little bit higher. Preston got right behind a lap car, got loose, and Ty took advantage and Preston won by 4/1000ths of a second at the line.
Yep.
It
And
was
it's
basically a
interesting.
bumper.
What's interesting to note, and I think this would be good for the fans, for Jamestown fans to understand as well. So the the the
Scoring
line,
loop.
the scoring line is not directly underneath the flag stand because I think it's one it's at the end of the first or the last, whichever one way you want to call it, the last cement wall piece. It's right at the
Yes.
end, and it's not
Yes.
at like it's the end to the left of the flag stand, not to the right. So
Yes.
because me and Brian were looking down over, and we thought it was Ty winning. And
Well,
when I looked, I was looking straight underneath me, and I'm like, "Oh, this could be bad real quick." And I saw Ty go underneath the flag stand before Preston.
Mhm.
Preston beat Ty to where the scoring line was.
Yep. So it's basically where it's at is there's a cone actually set up kind of in the infield that kind of positions where that loop is to show kind of where the loop is because it goes straight across, right? For the track stuff. And like Jessup said, like here's a flag stand and like here's the loop. So from there, it was definitely basically a race to the loop to see, who would get that final, basically that final lap to be led. So yep. So yeah, really close race though, 4/1000ths of a second there in victory lane. And then in your street stock division, street stocks, they had 19 cars check in on Saturday night. We had 24 legends check in, 19 cars check in for the Minnesota street stocks. They had just a one caution in the middle of that street stock race, and it was Jaden Christ who was running Billy's car because Billy's at guard duty this week. That ended up picking up the win as he passed Jody Michelson with about 5 laps into that race, somewhere in that range. And Jaden kind of drove away. He was about a second and a half ahead of the field, but then the battle was between Jody Michelson and Dustin Erickson, who were tied going into the night for the points. Jody finished second, Dustin finished third. So I think the lead right now is 4 points going
Ooh.
into Saturday night for the streets. So yep, so really close. Spencer Johnson got his car put back together, which was nice to see after his rollover the previous week before, and he finished top five as well, along with Brian Grenz. Brian had a great run over there from Napoleon on Saturday night, which was kind of nice to see. And your mods were
Carnage.
mods were before the Midwest mods, and it was carnage. It was a carnage field feature
Now,
event.
John, what type of carnage would you say? Would it be more of a yell carnage where it's like carnage, or would you say more of your Batman-esque carnage where you go with carnage?
It was more the carnage.
Oh,
The
just
first couple were carnage, but the last couple, I was like, "You've got to be kidding me! We have more carnage."
it
So,
was a lot
so
of
yeah, there was a
carnage.
lot of cautions. We started with 19 mods and we finished with 9.
Oh, oof.
So yeah, so there was a lot of cautions and just you
We
know
rolled one.
yes, we rolled Andrew Michael on the front straightaway after Scott Gartner, Derek Hansen, and Andy Cap got together. Andy kind of came to a stop almost on the front straightaway, and Andrew had nowhere to go, plowed right into him and rolled it. So luckily, I think just based on what you had seen because it happened right underneath the grandstand, or right underneath the flag stand from your guys' side, from right there, he rolled I think once if I wasn't mistaken.
It looked about once from what I saw. I was still in my role, making sure one and two were pretty much covered, and I kind of caught the beginning of it happening as like a commotion out of my left eye. I'm like, what's this? And as I start turning, I see Andrew start rolling by me. I'm like, oh gosh, this is
Yep.
how it ends. Becca's gonna be mad.
Yep. So they turned his car back over, and the car itself didn't look terrible, by any means. I mean, it wasn't great, but it wasn't terrible by any means either.
I was gonna say it
So
does not look ideal.
no, it wasn't ideal by any means. So hopefully, he can get that car put back together maybe for the year-end specials upcoming here in the next couple of weeks. Hopefully Andrew can get that as we did the rollover fund up front too. But no, in overall though, it was kind of a battle up front, basically kind of between about 5 drivers overall. You had the likes up front of Marcus Tomlinson,
Yep.
Eric Edwards.
Yep.
You had
Jordan Sowers.
Jordan Sowers, and then you had the likes of Colin Hibden, who was working his way through the field, as well as Derek Hansen. So Derek started pretty deep in the field from the South Dakota area, and he got up to second at one point, but it was Colin and Eric Edwards who were kind of the two drivers working their way through the field. Eric worked his way through the field very early and was running the high side of the speedway, and Colin was using more of the bottom part of the speedway to make his moves towards the front. Colin did a slider on Eric after a restart, with about I think it was about 8 to go, 8 to 10 to go somewhere there, and you got the lead. And then the battle was on for second between Eric and Jordan and Derek Hansen. Derek got into second, and Jordan passed him on the final lap for that runner-up spot to get the Coogan. So congratulations to those guys. Tough break for Marcus Tomlinson. He got a flat tire in the middle of that as Marcus was running top 5 pretty much that whole race before that flat tire. So with only a few laps left. But besides that, Colin ended up picking his first win in Jamestown since I believe it was the Gumke race back at the beginning of June.
Been quite a while.
So yeah, so Colin picked up a win and brand new wrap on that car, ready for Super Nationals as well. And then the final event of the night was your Minnesota Midwest Modifieds for their memorial race for the Carpenter Memorial. They had raised over $13,000, over 60 some sponsors that come on board for that, so that was kind of cool to see. And it was a pretty clean race overall. They had one caution during that feature event for the Midwest Modifieds. They ran 25 laps, and it was Brennan Way who started on the pole. He redrew the one down in Victory Lane during intermission. Started on the pole, and Brennan won back to back. Brennan was gone. He was like 4 seconds ahead of the field for majority of that race. But there was a great battle for second between Aaron Beyer and Jaron Winstead. And then you had Zach Ranke involved in there, and Ryan Ost was right in the mix. And it was a definitely a hard fought battle for second because they were slicing and dicing through lap traffic, kind of like the late model race the week before, Mason. When we were watching that, the Midwest Mods were doing the same thing, slicing and dicing through lap traffic, and it was Beyer had been in second, the runner up spot for majority of that race, and it was actually Zach Ranke who passed him coming out of turn four, where the runner up spot, and Beyer kept his foot in it to the line and smacked the wall,
Mm.
and
Yeah,
and he broke the rear end when he smacked the
yeah.
wall. So yeah, but he got third. So Aaron got third across the line, and then it was Jaron Winstead in fourth, and it just a really good race in your Midwest Modifieds for the Carpenter Memorial as they were top, bottom, in the middle. They were kind of all over the track for that race, so that was kind of cool to see. But yeah, congratulations to Brandon White as he picked up the win, and that was our night in Jamestown. We got done about 10:45 and got to visit a little bit afterwards with some of the track people, so that was kind of nice. Jessup and I got to walk the track, take a couple of pictures, and it was just a it was kind of nice to get done a little bit early and be able to visit afterwards.
Yes, I would agree.
Yeah, sounds like a great night. I was very indecisive on Saturday. I was pretty much made my decision that I was going to go to Jamestown originally. However, I got a message asking if I was going to be able to come over to I-94 for for basically the rescheduled Bob Gierke Memorial Race that was going to take place on Friday, but they just pushed it back to Saturday with the rain out. So I went over to I-94 for the first time since mid-June for their race, and they also had a lot of cars. They had 117 cars there, so couple more than Jamestown, but still really good turnout over at I-94. They, of course, had the main ticket of the mods and Midwest Mods racing for an elevated payout, and I think they had a little bit of elevated payout in the other classes as well. But Street Stocks, Midwest Mods, Mods, Hornets, and Gen X late models were on the ticket, and Street Stocks kicked off the action with 26 of them on hand. Of course, they have a really solid field of Street Stocks over there. Eric Riley and Ty Egan have kind of been the ones kind of trading off the wins. You had Justin Vogel there as well as Jeff Ekdahl, and so definitely a lot of heavy hitters in that field. And originally, Kyle Dykoff also in the mix too, but he had some trouble. He started up front, but then fell back right away and pulled off. So not sure what was going on with the 11, but then it was between Vogel and Riley kind of trying to lead early. Since they were the first track cards out, the track was changing quite a bit, and the bottom crews started to come in. And Ty Egan, who was kind of rolling the bottom, got to make the pass on Eric Riley with just a few laps to go. And he got the feature win to kick off feature racing action in the Minnesota Street Stocks. The Midwest Modifieds were racing for $1,026, so another pretty good payout for the class. And so that kind of probably took away some of the drivers that probably would have been over in Jamestown, as well as they had 37 Midwest Modifieds there. So a very, very stout field. And we had drivers from South Dakota, Wisconsin, Minnesota, and North Dakota. So a very, very good representation. Originally it was Sean Kelly and Onyx Johnson on the front row. So a couple of names that we probably don't normally see at the front of the field right away to kick things off. And Sean Kelly led a bulk of the early part of that race. Nate Reinke kind of went around him a few laps later to kind of take control of the race, but it was Mike Nichols who was making that high side work as the race progressed further and further. And he was closing in on Nate Reinke with just a couple laps left, but just ran out of time on the high side as Nate got to pick up the feature win. Mike Nichols, who had started 12th, moved up to second, and Will Moulter from Elk Mountain, Wisconsin, was your third place finisher. And they did extra money for the hard chargers in the Midwest Modifieds and Modifieds. And Haley Dykoff, who started 19th and ended up 4th, was your hard charger in the Midwest Modifieds. So definitely a lot of passing in that feature. The Gen X late models were next up, and that was an action-packed feature. They had a little bit of carnage in that race, but also a really good race up front. was a battle between Joseph Thomas and a driver who came out of a little bit of retirement, Scott Danziason. Sure, that's a name familiar to a lot of race fans out there. He was behind the wheel of Brad Staples' Gen X late model, and he was originally gone. Like he was like way out in front, had a couple of cautions that kind of brought the field back together. And then Joseph Thomas, racing the 1776 Levi Babcock owned machine, was using the high side, ripping it lap after lap, and was catching him pretty quickly. The two got together down the front stretch and actually ended up with Joey basically going two wheels up in the air and over the front of Dan Ziason's car. And unfortunately, that ended the night for Dan Ziason. They didn't have a caution as he got to pull the infield, but then Joseph Thomas was able to continue, and he scored the feature win in the Gen X late models with Mike Anderson and Derek Quinn, your podium finishers. The Wissota Modifieds were next on hand with 27 drivers in attendance there. And again, very stellar field of cars. You have Dave Kane, Brady Gertis, Dusty Bidson, Dan Ebert, who's been on the USMTS schedule. He showed up for his second Wissota race of the summer. And it was all Brady Gertis. He got to the front pretty dang quickly, got ahead of Ryan Flatten and Brett Hoyam early, and he pretty much set the pace from there. There was not really any challengers throughout the entire that race, so he got to claim his first Bob Gierke Memorial, and he's been really good friends with the Gierke family for numerous amounts of years, and this was a big win that he really wanted to check off. So big congrats out to Brady Gertis for the win. Dave Kane, who was very patient running the low side, moved from 8th up to 2nd at the end, and Dan Ebert was your 3rd place finisher in the modifieds. Hard charger for that was Landon Atkinson, going 17th to 6th. So great job to Landon as well. And the Wissota Hornets finished out the night, and similar to the modifieds at Jamestown, there was carnage and more carnage. We had trouble getting that race going. I think we had 14 Hornets in that race, and it took 20 minutes to complete that race. So, and with the red flag and the rollover. So it was definitely a long race to end the night. Thankfully, it was a photo finish to finish things off between Jeff Roner, who had started 13th and was making his way to the front slowly but surely with national title contender Justin Chalitsky. Actually, both of them are up top of the national points. And Justin Chalitsky edged out Jeff Roner by just a half a bumper to get the feature win. And so nice end to the night for Justin Chalitsky in the number 14 machine as he continues his quest for a national title. And that was your action over at the I-94 EMR Speedway on Saturday. So then on Sunday, few races taking place, but John and I were the ones taking in action up at the Nodak Speedway for the inaugural Monte Lundy Memorial. And for those that don't know who Monte Lundy is, he was a well-known racer up in the Minot area. I believe he was from more north of Minot, or Surrey, the Surrey area, actually. Raced the number 14 modified for several years, and he had just recently passed. And so they raised a lot of money for the IMCA modifieds, as it was $3,014 to win, $2,014 for second, and $1,014 for third. So, John, what were your takeaways from the Nodak Speedway?
Track was in really good condition. They had it really good for the whole entire night, so that was kind of cool to see from a racing perspective. And really healthy field of IMCA modified drivers from definitely the quality perspective. We had a lot of big names there within the IMCA modifieds.
Yeah, I will admit I was probably expecting a few more modifieds to show up, being that it was such a high-paying show. And I mean, kudos to all the people that put that purse together. It was a very, very good purse. And so, but yeah, you can't argue with the quality of drivers that showed up for that from basically all across Western and kind of South Central North Dakota. So definitely some heavy hitters on hand. So they raced 4 classes. They had the Western Renegade non-wing sprint cars in attendance, along with slingshots, NX Legends, and of course the IMCA modified. And so Western Renegade sprint cars, John, it was all Jeremy Lizakowski, although he had to work to get to that lead.
Yeah, he was battling hard up front. And you know what was funny about this is that he's never won in Minot.
That is surprising.
So that was something that was pretty cool to see too.
Yeah, and so he had to battle with Randy Blotsky, I believe it was, early, got around him on the high side, and then pretty much set sail from there. And so I was fortunate enough to stick a GoPro camera on his car, and it proved to be the winning combination as he ended up in victory lane for the Western Renegade non-wing sprint cars. Up next were the slingshots, and John, we had some carnage. Actually, my main takeaway from the slingshots is that we figured out that 6 wide does not work.
Yeah, 6 wide does not work in the slingshot. It ends up in a rollover.
Yeah. I mean, it was really cool to see that. At first, I'm just like, okay, how is this going to end up in a corner and a half later? We had one upside down.
Yes, we did. Yep.
But
So one of Aaron Turnbull's kids had unfortunately rolled, but they were fine. So that was good to see from there. But yeah, it was Slade and Pfeiffer with the last corner pass for the win.
which is it was a pretty good effort because he actually got charged with a caution just before that. So he had to go to the back of the field and then basically made a last corner pass to get that win. So that was an action-packed race for your slingshots. And they had a pretty good field of slingshots there. I was very impressed with all the slingshots that showed up there on Sunday. And so congrats to the 11 of Slade and Pfeiffer. In your NX Legends, it was a familiar face finding his way to the front, although Austin Weist started out front, got the lead early, but it's hard to hold that minion man of Preston Martin back, especially with the weekend he's had, John.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, Preston got around Austin Weist early in that race, and they kind of battled, but it was definitely Preston's race pretty much during that night because he won in the heat after passing Austin Weist, and he won in the feature after passing Austin Weist as well.
Yep, so Preston Martin with the win there, Austin Weist in second. Shout out to Andy Bargman, looked really good on Sunday and ended up in third place in your NX Legends. And then, of course, the main ticket on hand was the IMCA Modifieds. Like we said, a lot of heavy hitters. You had Sean Strand, Jeremy Keller coming up from Mandan. You had Travis Hagan, Jason Wallace showed up, and Aaron Turnbull came down from Canada. So you definitely had a lot of the who's who of IMCA Modifieds. And so started with Drew Christensen and Sean Strand out front, and they kind of battled for the first few laps. And then Sean kind of held control for the front to middle part of the race. But then Aaron Turnbull kind of put his name in the mix, and then it was a big battle from there.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, Mason, it was a very interesting race to watch different dynamics because Sean was kind of in the middle of the track, using that as the groove that he was in for quite some time, and then eventually that bottom side that Aaron was using finally had started coming in, and Aaron passed him, and then Aaron kind of switched up his lines too a little bit, Mason, because he was going kind of bottom side in 1 and 2, and then he would go top side in 3 and 4, and then back to the bottom in 3 and 4 the next lap. So he was kind of changing his lines up too to just try to see what was still out there from the track.
Yeah, and even behind him, they were like all over the place. I mean, I think the bottom group was probably the preferred, but like drivers were using every inch of that track because there was a lot of like shuffling throughout, like because they had a few cautions intermixed throughout that feature. But yeah, that track was in really good condition. And of course, the dark horse Travis Hagen made one late charge and was reeling in Aaron for a couple laps, but then I think he kind of used up his tires towards the end, and Aaron kind of just cruised on home. And so he got the big payday for the inaugural Monte Lundy Memorial in front of Travis Hagen. And Jason the Big Show Walla was in third. And they also did a cool thing. So because Monte Lundy's number was 14, they also had an extra $1,000 for the 14th place finisher, which went to Jake Nelson in the 10J. So like he said in Victory Lane, probably the happiest he's been finishing 14th. So there you have it for the Nodak Speedway Sunday recap for the Monte Lundy Memorial. And that, my friends, is the Track Packer report from this weekend. So moving on into championship weekend, we look at what's upcoming in the state of North Dakota with Mr. Dakota Dirt.
And race fans, if you've not checked out Dakota Dirt, you need to, because again, it is your one-stop shop. Look at my finger, one-stop shop for everything North Dakota racing news, results, forecasts, and much more. Don't worry about articles, they'll eventually write one. But again, it is your one-stop shop for everything result-based and schedule-based for the state of North Dakota. They are social on social media platforms, as well as their website on dakotadirt.org.
Why, thank you, John. As far as the articles go, we are contemplating on doing some on the alleged rumors of the NX Legends Nationals potentially being located for 2025 around our state here in the next maybe couple days here. See if we have time, if nothing too crazy hits. And we might even do another article, maybe a controversial article with the the most recent announcement that Wasota has re-signed with Hoosier for another 5 years. So that'll be maybe we might put that one out. We might not. We're gonna wait and see all the details come out. But as far as racing goes, we got a lot of good stuff. It's the fair race over at the Cheyenne Speedway this week, August 22nd on Thursday. August 23rd, season championship at Dacotah Speedway. The Estevan Motor Speedway is also hosting its championship night. And River Cities has the World of Outlaw Sprint Cars along with the NLRA late models. So very action-packed Friday night. Saturday's looking good as Jamestown Speedway is hosting its championship night along with the Fans Appreciation Coogan Party. And then Red River Valley will be hosting the World of Outlaw Sprint Cars along with the second annual Danny Schatz Memorial for the IMCA 305 Race Saver Sprints. Then Williston will be hosting their championship night as well, along with the Devil's Lake Speedway, which it looks like it's just a regular night of racing for them. Then we also have Nodak Speedway racing on the 25th as well. So a lot of good racing in the state. And if we ever get just a few moments for the world to slow down and not be fully exhausted, we will get a few articles looking at the potential comparisons and pros and cons of each tracks, and maybe, just maybe, if there's a true benefit of hosting the NX Legends Nationals. So
I will add one thing to Nodak's program on the 25th. It looks like the Sport Compacts have an elevated payout, so I believe it's the same as the Sport Mods typically raise.
That is correct. Yep.
Is that
That is. I saw that today.
What is it called? I'm drawing a blank right now. But
It's not their big Sport Compact special that they're going to have over Motor Magic.
Motor Magic.
But they increased the payout for the Sport Compact drivers this week.
Nice.
Yep, and this is the part of their season where they're kind of doing some more special races, elevated payouts for some of the classes throughout the end of the summer until they get to their Motor Magic coming up the following weekend over Labor Day. So yeah, pretty much point season finales for the most part in the state of North Dakota. Kind of similar outside the state of North Dakota as we have a lot of racing action taking place starting on Thursday. The first of 3 nights for the Dead Horse Creek Speedway. I believe it's the Watermelon Cup, I think is what it's called. Actually, the 22nd is a practice that was canceled, so the 23rd is when they start. That is my mistake. 23rd is the first night for the Dead Horse Creek Speedway, but running on the 22nd is KRA Speedway and Victory Lane Speedway, with KRA Speedway being their free grandstand admission and rescheduled to meet the drivers because that got rained out the previous week. On the 23rd, it is the first of 2 nights for the Brown County Speedway for their points championship finale. Fiesta City Speedway is having their season finale as well on the 23rd, and I-94 Speedway will be back in action on Friday. 24th, of course, we got Brown County once again, Dead Horse Creek Speedway. The Madison Speedway is in action along with North Central Speedway, Ogilvy Raceway with their points championship, and Viking Speedway as well.
Mason,
yes,
it is the King of the Corn at Dead Horse Creek Speedway.
Thank you. Yep, you can throw a caution on me for that.
It's okay.
All right, so that was
It's
the 24th.
late.
It is
We'll
late.
We'll just dock you 1 position.
Cool. I'm still top 3. The 25th, we have Bemidji Speedway, as well as the Buffalo River Speedway, Casino Speedway, Granite City Motor Park, and Redwood Speedway. So this is kind of the last main weekend before Labor Day specials and invitational season starts up, and so there's going to be a lot of racing to take in, whether you're a driver or a race fan. So be sure to go out and support your racetracks in some way, shape, or form, because there's no shortage to be had. So as we display the white flag and get to our wins of the week, we'll give a shout out to the B1 IMCA stock car driver, Brody Carlsrud, who did a little traveling this weekend as he went over to the Dacotah Speedway on Friday because his home track rained out, unfortunately. So nice to see that he got some racing in on the weekend, and he's been uploading some podcast episodes with The Real Deal with B1. So be sure to check out his podcast and be sure to stay up to date by following him on Facebook and his racing page, Brody Carlsrud, B1 Racing. So thank you, Brody, for supporting us on the podcast. So wins of the week. Do either of you want to go first with wins of the week? Jessup, do you have any in mind?
I have three.
Go ahead.
I will start with Sladen Pfeiffer picking up a nail biter of a win over, I believe was it Brogan?
It was actually, well, Brogan was in the mix, but
Morgan
it was
was in
Cash,
there, yep.
Cash Aho.
Yeah, yep. So basically a side-by-side finish coming out of corner 4, so that was pretty cool. The second one I would say on the national scene is Donnie Schatz. It's not a surprise that I'm a fan of his, so for him to pick up a big win for the season is nice to see. He's picking up momentum right at the right time. Hopefully he seals the deal with a few more wins here and a little misfortune for Mr. Gravel, but that's just my biasness on that. And finally, I will go with Preston Martin for picking up a clean sweep of wins this weekend. One at Dacotah Speedway, one over at the Jamestown, and one up in Nodak. That's a pretty good weekend.
I'd agree with that. 3 wins on a weekend, it's pretty good.
Yep. Where do I lie?
No lies detected.
Could have had 4, but 3 is still really good.
He could have had 4. Come on, Preston. Anyways. John, I can go next if you'd like me to, John.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I got 3 quick ones here. The first 2 are first career class wins. So first one goes out to Alex Grinauger in the 44X with Soda Street Stock as he won down at the Madison Speedway for his first street stock win. So he had transitioned from the pure stocks this last season, and so racing full-time in the street stock division this year and picking up your first win. Congrats out to you, Alex Grinauger. Also picking up his first career feature win on Sunday at the Buffalo River Speedway was the 10T of Derek Turner, and he's been looking pretty dang good over the last couple of weeks. Of course, he's been on the Street Stock Tour for the majority of the season and picked up a couple of top 5 finishes the previous week and capping it off this last weekend with the win over at Buffalo Rivers. So very good job to you, Derek Turner. Hopefully the first of many to come. And then my third win goes out to number 28, Tommy Nichols. Now, Tommy had a little bit of health issues a few weeks back with myocarditis, I believe it's what it's called. And he's won back-to-back nights down at the Casino Speedway, so it definitely hasn't slowed him down a whole heck of a lot. And even over at I-94, he looked pretty dang good until some early race misfortune and battled back through the field for a solid finish. And so kudos to you, Tommy Nichols, for fighting through that little health scare, and hope to see you keep ending up in victory lane. So those are my 3 wins of the week. Go ahead, John.
Okay, so I got 3. So I have to give a win of the week and shout out to Aaron Turnbull. We mentioned him earlier already for the big win during the Monte Lundy Memorial Race. He picked up $3,000+ for that win. So congratulations to Aaron, a really good win up there in his IMC Modified. Held off the dark horse Travis Hagen, which was kind of fun to see a little bit of battle between those two drivers once again. The second win, I have to give it out to Brendan Wade. He's been on a hot streak lately, and he went back-to-back in the Carp. He won over $2,037 again this weekend over at the Jamestown Speedway. And he's your defending WISSOTA 100 champion in the WISSOTA Midwest Modifieds, which is going to be happening here in less than a month. So kind of excited to see what Brendan is able to do over there again in Fergus Falls. And then my third win of the week, this was kind of tough. I had a couple in mind, but I am actually going to throw it over to the Granite City Motor Park because Dylan Nelson, if you guys watched that super stock race, him and Dexton Cook had a great battle up front, and Dylan got around Dexton coming out of turn 4 to pick up the win. So congratulations to Dylan Nelson with a little bit of a bump and run in turn 4 to get that win.
Now that was a quintessential bump and run, unlike what we saw the previous week over at a racetrack in Virginia.
Yes, yes. Didn't even wreck the driver, just moved him out of the way.
Well, I mean, technically, said driver in question did move a couple people out of the way.
Well, he did. He just did it in a very spectacular fashion that didn't
Yes,
necessarily pay off for him.
yes.
Well,
Unfortunately, this move that Dylan put on Sunday basically didn't really cause any extra damage to a facility or a race car, unlike another move that happened last week.
Ironically, also with the name Dylan in their name.
Yes,
I don't know why you're singling out a person who played within the rules of NASCAR
Well,
or said Virginia Track and Association.
see, this is true because I don't totally blame him for doing that move. It's how
it's
they.
kind of what's relevant nowadays, right,
Mhm.
Sam?
And see,
But
this is how people become victimized. You play within the rules of society and the sanctioning bodies, and then you beat them at their own rules, and then they decide to play God and change things.
Well, any other closing thoughts before we wrap up episode 22 of season 3?
well,
Jessup,
you
are you going
already
to
gave me
be?
the checkered flag, so I mean, pretty much we're already
Yeah.
done. There goes those closing thoughts.
Well, I was going to ask Jessup, are you going to be just at one track or are you going to be at multiple this week?
Everything depends. We're on standby waiting mode.
Okay.
So I could be at 8 tracks. I could be at one track. I might be at no tracks.
Alrighty. The
Oh,
unknown.
we are into the great unknown. And with that, folks, congratulations. You made it through another episode of the Track Packer podcast. I am not your host. I am just one of the talking heads that get to speak on this show. Mason, wrap her up.
This is a fitting end to a wacky podcast. That'll do it for episode 22 of season 3 for the Track Packers podcast. Thank you for watching and be sure to like, share, and comment on our social media platforms and be sure to follow us on the various podcasting platforms as well. Thank you to our sponsors, Hitch Harness, the real deal of the B1 Brody Carlsrud, and Isaac Hot Sauce Sondrol. Points battles are super tight, shaping up, so we hope to see you out there at some point back in the track.